This question looks straightforward, and most students think they know exactly what to do, but a large number of them still get it wrong, not because the math is hard, but because they don't slow down to interpret what the percentage actually means. So before we calculate anything, we want to translate the meaning of percentage strength, and then once you do that, the rest of the problem becomes very routine. Hello, this is Dr. Dankwa, and if this is your first time here and you like to learn pharmaceutical calculations, tips, tricks, and strategies, then start by subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. Now take a look at this question and don't calculate anything yet. Just read it carefully and ask yourself one thing. What does 0.5% weight and volume tell me in plain language? If you can answer that first, you would avoid the most common mistakes students make on this problem. And so now here's the question. It says, if an injection contains 0.5% weight by volume of diltiazem hydrochloride, calculate the number of milligrams of the drug in 25 milliliters of injection. Round to the nearest whole number. Do not include units. So now at this point, many students jump straight into the math, and that's where the error could begin. So percentage strength is not a formula. It's actually a definition. And percentage weight in volume tells you how many grams of drug are present in 100 milliliters of the solution. So before calculating, I would rewrite the meaning of the percentage strength. And this is where I will check my interpretation, and you could use things like BVNC to help you do that. So let's see how BVNC breaks this down. So I'm going to go to the chart in BVNC and then start a new chart. And my goal here really is to understand two things: whether my interpretation is correct, and also if there are common errors or mistakes that students make when it comes to this type of question. So I'm going to put in the prompt and then just click enter. So when I decided to determine what the 0.5% weight by volume is, my understanding is going to be 0.5 grams in 100 milliliters. But let's quickly juxtapose that with what BVNC decided to share. So it starts off also by saying what does 0.5% weight by volume represent, and then it talks about how your percent implies 100, and then the W is the weight or the mass of the solute, and that's typically in grams, and that's correct. And then the volume is in milliliters, and so 0.5% is 0.5 grams of the drug in every 100 milliliters of the solution. So that'll be correct, and that's exactly what I was alluding to. So of course, BVNC goes ahead and solves the problem using two different methods, but we'll go through the solution. What we are looking for here is what are the common mistakes that can happen. So you notice it listed three different things. It said you could use milligrams instead of grams. So that's a common mistake that students might make. And so what that will mean is you're going to put 0.5 milligrams over 100 milliliters. Basically, your units are not accurate. And that's very important. No, weight by volume is always grams in 100 milliliters. It's a definition. That's what it means. Percentage strength. All right, so the second thing is confusing the units, so we talked about that, and then also forgetting that it's per 100. So it all centers around the same concept. Once you have crystallized in your mind what the definition is, the percentage strength is a number of grams in 100 milliliters. When it's on the weight by volume situation, then you would always get the interpretation correct, and if your interpretation is correct, then your answer will be correct. And so let's go to the blackboard, and I'm just going to solve the question, and then we can take a look at what the solution is. And so we start off with the 0.5% weight by volume of the drug, which is diltiazem hydrochloride. And we want to interpret the 0.5% weight by volume correctly. So that'll be 0.5 grams of the drug in 100 milliliters. Now, once this is established, because our volume of interest is 25 milliliters, we're going to set up a proportion. And the goal here is to figure out the quantity in grams that is present in 25 milliliters. So we solve for X, and notice that when we solve for X, the units will be in grams, but then the question is asking for milligrams. So we'll do a conversion after we figured out the amount in grams. So now X is going to be equal to 0.5 grams times 25 milliliters divided by 100 milliliters. So this will cancel out, the milliliters will cancel out, and so you end up with 0.125 grams. Once again, the question is asking for the number of milligrams. So we're going to do a quick conversion, and we want to recall that 1 gram is 1,000 milligrams. And so the grams will cancel out, and you end up with 125 milligrams. So as you notice, the math itself is straightforward, easy, and clear. And the real portion of the question where the error would lie is if you interpret the 0.5% weight by volume incorrectly. So if you are preparing for an exam, here are a few things to remember. Anytime you see percentage trend, you want to translate it immediately into grams per 100 milliliters. And then you want to do that before you look at the volume in question. If you build this habit, these problems will stop feeling confusing and will start feeling very predictable. And so that's exactly what the exam will reward, your clear understanding of the true facts that are needed to solve the problem. And so this is how you should practice percentage trend questions. You do the interpretation first and then the calculations second. And you can use tools like Divinci, which are very helpful to help you reinforce this type of thinking. So I hope you found this video tutorial useful. If you did, be sure to like it and share it. And if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments and I'll get to them as soon as I see them. If you'd like to learn more pharmaceutical calculations, tips, tricks, and strategies, then start by subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.